Maybe place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart, or maybe both hands on the outsides of your ribs. And take notice of your ribs and your lungs. They expand on your inhales and on your belly as it hollows out on your exhale. Try to let go of anything you may be feeling or bringing into practice today. Stay present in the moment. Just focus in on your breath, connecting your body and your mind and your breath. On your next inhale, if you're lying on your mat, go ahead and stretch out through your fingers, through your toes. Come into a big morning stretch. If you're seated, you can just stretch your arms overhead. Maybe start to invite movement into your fingers. And when you're ready, hug your knees into your chest if you're lying down. And make your way up to a seated position. Ground down through your sits bones. Sit up nice and tall. And inhale, reach your arms overhead. And on your exhale, drop your right hand behind you, left arm in front of you. Gaze over your right shoulder. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And come back to center. Pause here. On your inhale, reach your arms overhead and drop your left arm behind you, right arm in front of you. Gaze over your left shoulder. On your inhale, grow nice and tall through your crown. And on your exhale, try to twist a little deeper. And come back to center. Inhale, extend your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your hands down to the mat in front of you. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Maybe walk your hands out a little further if you can find more space. And then slowly start to walk your hands to the right side of your mat. Feel the stretch in your left side body. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. Try to keep your left Sit bone grounded down into the mat. And walk your hands back to center. Pause here. And then slowly walk your hands over towards the left side of your mat. Soften into the stretch in your right side body. Try to keep your right sits bone grounded down into the mat. And walk your hands back to center. Taking a pause here. And then slowly walk your hands back towards your body. Sit up straight. Come over onto your knees. Come into tabletop. Wrists are in line with your shoulders. Knees are in line with your hips. Start to slowly rotate your hips in one direction. And pause. Come back to neutral spine in the middle. And rotate in the opposite direction. And come back to neutral spine in the middle. With your breath, start to take a few cat-cows. Drop your belly, tilt your pelvis, tilt your sits bones towards the sky, heart pulls forward, come into cow. And on your exhale, pull your belly button into your spine, arch your back, come into cat pose. Go ahead and move through this with the rhythm of your breath. And come back to neutral spine. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink your hips back, stretch your arms out in front of you, forehead rests on the mat, come into child's pose. Take a moment to pause here. Inhale, reach your right arm high in the air. Exhale, thread it under your body. Bring your right cheek to the mat. Gaze over your right fingers. Take a few slow, deep breaths here, feeling the stretch in your right shoulder. And stretch your right arm back out to meet your left. Sink your hips back. Pause here. Take note of your breath. And extend your left arm high in the air. Exhale, thread it under your body. Rest your left cheek on the mat. Gaze over your left fingers. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Soften into the stretch in your left shoulder. And extend your left arm out long. Sink your hips back. Come into child's pose. Slowly make your way back up to tabletop. Extend your right leg behind you. Option to keep your leg here or lift your right leg off the mat, bringing your foot and your hip to equal distance parallel to the mat. You can stay here or you can extend your left arm out in front of you, coming into spinal balance. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And if you raised your leg and your arm, go ahead and lower everything back down, come into tabletop. Pause here. Extend your left leg out behind you. Option to stay here, or you can lift your leg off the mat, bringing it to hip distance or hip level. Option to stay here or extend your right arm out in front of you. Engage your core. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And lower your hand and your knee back down to the mat. Come into tabletop. Take a pause here. And again, extend your right leg behind you. Option to keep your foot on the mat or lift it up to hip level. Also option to extend your left arm out in front of you. You can stay here or reach your left arm around to meet your right foot, grabbing your right foot, kicking your right foot in towards your left palm. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And lower your knee back down to the mat and lower your hand down to the mat. Extend your left foot behind you. Again, you have the option to keep your foot on the mat or lift it up off the mat. Option to extend your right arm out in front of you. You can stay here or reach that right arm around and kick your left foot into your right hand. Feel the stretch in your right shoulder. Stay with me for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And release everything, come back to tabletop. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink back, come into child's pose. Feel the stretch in your back. Stay here for 2 more cycles of breath. And slowly rise back up to tabletop. Place your right foot on the outside edge of your right hand. Tuck your left toes under, lift your left knee off the mat, wiggle your right foot or your left foot back, drop your left knee on the mat, untuck your toes. Stay here. Feel the stretch in your left hip flexor. And then slowly sink your hips back, straighten your right leg, bow forward. Feel the stretch in your right hamstring. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And then slowly start to bend into your right knee, feeling the stretch in your left hip. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And then slowly straighten your right knee, bow forward, sink your hips back. Soften into the stretch in your right hamstring. And slowly bend into your right knee. Come forward. Keep your left hand rooted down on the mat. Extend your right arm overhead. Twist open to the right side. Option to keep your right arm extended overhead, or you can tuck it behind your back. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. Lower your right hand back down to the mat. Tuck your left toes under. Lift your left knee off the mat. Step back to down dog. If this is your first down dog of the day, go ahead and come up onto your toes. Maybe sink your heels lower. Just take a moment to soften in. And then lower your knees back down to the mat. Come into tabletop. Place your left foot on the outside edge of your left hand. Tuck your right toes under. Lift your right knee off the mat and wiggle your right foot back. Lower your right knee down. Untuck your toes. Pause here. Feel the stretch in your right hip flexor. And then slowly sink your hips back, straighten your left leg, bow forward. Feel the stretch in your left hamstring. Soften in. Stay with me for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And then slowly start to bend into your left knee. Come forward. Feel the stretch in your right hip. Stay here for 2 more cycles of breath. And then slowly start to straighten your left knee. Sink your hips back, bow forward. Soften into the stretch in your left hamstring. And slowly bend into your left knee. Come forward. Pause here. Keep your right hand rooted down on the mat. Extend your right arm overhead. Twist open to the left side. Your left arm can be overhead or tucked behind your back. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And place your left hand back down on the mat. Tuck your right toes under. Lift your right knee off the mat. Step back to down dog. Pause here. Maybe try to sink your heels lower to the mat, feeling the stretch in your calves. Lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Go ahead and interlace your fingers overhead, bringing your pointer fingers to point towards the sky. Take a deep inhale, growing tall through your crown. And on your exhale, slowly draw your heart forward up towards the sky, bringing your pointer fingers to point towards the back of your mat. Take a micro back bend here. Root down through your feet. Stay with me for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up. Release your hands, keep your arms extended overhead. Pause here. And then anchor your left heel down. Bring your arms parallel to the mat. Come into warrior 2. Keep your right knee tracking towards your right little toe. Root down through the soles of your feet. Gaze over your right fingers. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Bringing your right arm overhead. Left arm reaches down towards your left calf. Feel the stretch in your right side body. Stay here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And then slowly bring your arms back up, parallel to the mat, come into warrior 2. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot, spin off your back heel, step back to down dog. Extend your left leg high in the air, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly rise up to high lunge. Interlace your fingers, point towards the sky. Remember to keep your shoulders melted away from your ears. Inhale, grow nice and tall through the crown. And exhale, slowly draw your pointer fingers back towards the back of your mat. Heart points towards the sky. Come into a mini back bend. Root down through the soles of your feet. Stay with me for 1 more slow, deep breath. And start to rise back up. Release your hands. Keep your arms extended overhead. Pause here. And anchor your right heel down. Spin your arms open to be parallel to the mat. Come into warrior 2. Gaze over your left fingers. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Feel the stretch in your left side body. Stay here for a few more slow, deep breaths. And then slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot, spin off your back heel, step back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. And walk your hands up, or your feet up to your hands to your feet, and bow forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward and step back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. Lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for a low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. And slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Shoulders away from the ears. Engage your core, hugging in through the midline. Slowly start to draw your shoulder blades together. Bring your arms out to cactus arms, opening through your heart. Gaze up towards the ceiling. Rooting down through the soles of your feet. And then extend your arms overhead. Take a moment to pause here. Slowly start to straighten your front leg. And bow forward, bringing your hands to frame your front foot. Maybe step your back foot up just a little and bow over your front leg, coming in to runner stretch. Take a moment to make sure your hips are square. Your back toes can be pointing slightly out towards the side if that feels good for you. Maybe inhale, halfway lift, and then exhale, folding over that front leg. Feel the stretch in your right hamstring. Stay here for a few more slow, deep breaths. And go ahead and slightly bend your right knee. Step your left foot forward and bow. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, halfway lift. Exhale, place your hands back down on the mat. Step back to down dog. Inhale, lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly rise up to high lunge. Bringing your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Hug into the midline, engage your core. Slowly start to squeeze your shoulder blades together, bring your arms out to cactus arms. Shine your heart towards the sky. Pause here. And then extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Slowly start to straighten your front leg. Bring your hands back down to frame your front foot. Maybe step that right foot up just a little. Maybe point your toes out towards the side. Set up for runner stretch. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold over your left leg. Feel the stretch in your left hamstring. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Try to keep your hips square. Bend into your left knee, step your right foot up, and bow forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Bring your big toes together. Leave a little space between your heels. Slowly sink your hips back, come into chair pose. Option to keep your hands here at heart center or extend your arms out in front of you or overhead in line with your ears. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And bow forward. Place your hands down on the mat. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep, arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Take a moment to root down through your left foot. Bring your right knee in towards your chest. Pause here. And then cross your right knee over your left. Maybe tuck your right toes behind your left leg and bring your arms out to a T. Wrap your left hand under your right, bring your palms together, come in to eagle pose. Keep your back nice and straight. Lift your shoulders up, elbows up. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And go ahead and slowly start to rise up. Release your feet, release your arms down next to your sides. Maybe shake out your legs. Ground down through your right foot. Bring your left knee in towards your chest. Hands can come to heart center. And cross your left leg over your right. Maybe tucking your left toes behind your right leg. Maybe just letting it there. And extend your arms out to a T. Bring your right arm under your left. Bring your palms together. Sink down, come into eagle pose on the second side. Lift your elbows. Stay nice and tall through your spine. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. Rooting down through your standing leg. And slowly rise up. Go ahead and release your feet down to the mat. Release your arms down to your sides. Maybe shake out your legs. Inhale, extend your arms overhead. And exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your toes out to the side, heels together, toes point out towards the sides of your mat. Slowly sink your hips down, come into Malasana. Hands come to heart center. Elbows are pointing or pushing into your knees. Knees are pushing into your elbows. If this is uncomfortable for you, please feel free to adjust any way you see fit, maybe placing a blanket under your heels, maybe backing off a little and coming back up. Stay with me for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And bring your hands down to the mat. Slowly bring your hips up, straighten your legs, heel toe your feet together, and bow forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. And exhale, fold forward. Place your hands on the mat and step back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. And reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Anchor your left heel down, spin your arms open and parallel to the mat, come into warrior two. Gazing over your right fingers. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Gaze up over your right fingers. Stay here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And slowly bring your arms back down to parallel to the mat. Start to straighten your right leg. Hinge at your hips. Bring your right hand down to your shin, the mat or a block. Extend your left arm overhead. Gaze up towards the ceiling. Stack your shoulders. Take a few slow, deep breaths here in Trikonasana, triangle pose. Slowly bend into your right knee. Root down through the soles of your feet and rise up to warrior two. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Windmill your hands back down to frame your right foot. Spin off your back heel. Place your left hand down on the mat. Extend your right arm overhead. Twist open to the right side. Pause here for a few slow, deep breaths. And bring your right hand back down to frame your front foot. Step back to down dog. Extend your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly rise up to high lunge. Extending your arms overhead, melting your shoulders away from your ears. Hug in through the midline. Anchor your right heel down. Bring your arms parallel to the mat. Come into warrior two. Gaze over your left fingers. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Breathe into the stretch in your left side body. And slowly rise back up to warrior two. Straighten your left knee. Hinge at your hips. Bring your left hand down to your shin, the mat or a block. Right arm extends overhead. Settle into Trikonasana. Remember to keep a micro bend in your left knee. We're here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And slowly bend into your left knee. Root down through the soles of your feet and rise back up to warrior two. Pause here and windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Keep your right hand rooted down in the mat. Extend your left arm overhead. Twist open to the left side. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And bring your left hand back down to the mat. Step back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. And bring your knees back down to the mat. Come back to tabletop. Come down onto your forearms. Your palms can be facing down towards the mat, or you can keep your hands in fists and step back to forearm plank. Tighten through your core. Engage your quads. Stay here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And then start to twist open to the left side, coming onto your right forearm. Extend your left arm overhead. Take a moment to pause here. Tighten through your core, lift through your hips. And lower your left forearm back down to the mat. Roll over to the left side. Extend your right arm overhead. Squeezing through the core and the hips. Lifting your hips up towards the sky. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And then lower your right elbow back down to the mat. Lower your knees down to the mat. Come back to tabletop. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink your hips back. Come into child's pose. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly rise back up to tabletop. This time, you have the option to lower down to forearm plank if you'd like to, or you can stay with your palms facing down, tuck your toes, come into plank, pausing here, tighten through your core. If you'd like to, you can come into side plank in the full expression, or you can drop your right knee down to the mat and open to the side. Whatever you choose, pause here in plank for 1 more slow, deep breath. And then roll over onto your right foot. Extend your left arm overhead. Again, you have the option to drop your right knee back down on the mat. Stay here for 2 more slow, deep breaths. And come back to center. If at any time you need to drop your knees, go ahead and do so. Or you can roll onto your left foot, extend your right arm overhead, come in to side plank on the second side. Remember to tighten your core, squeeze your hips up towards the ceiling, and come back to plank and push back to down dog. Take a moment to pause here. Reach your right leg high in the air. And exhale, bring your right knee to your right elbow. Come in to one knee pigeon. Sit up nice and tall. Take a deep inhale. And then slowly lower your heart down towards the mat. Your head can come to rest on your forearms, the mat. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Make sure your back foot is not sickling in. It's nice and straight. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. Start to rise up. Place your hands down on the mat. Tuck your left toes. Step back to down dog. Lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, bring your left knee to your left wrist. Set up for pigeon on the second side. Maybe walk your right foot back to the back of your mat. Sit up nice and tall. Keep your back flat and lower your heart down towards the mat. Maybe placing your head on your hand or the mat. Feel the stretch in your left outer hip. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Slowly start to rise up. Root down through the palms of your hands. Tuck your right toes under. Step back to down dog. Pause here. Take a big inhale. And let it all go with your exhale. Lower your knees down to the mat. Start to rise up. Your hips should be in line with your knees. Make sure your feet and your ankles and your knees are all in line, pointing towards the back of your mat. Stay nice and tall through your spine. Place your hands on your sacrum. Take a big inhale. And on your exhale, slightly push your hips forward. Shine your heart towards the sky. Sink your head back. Come in to camel. Elbows are pulling in towards each other. You have the option to stay here or reach down and grab for your heels. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. If you reach down for your heels, start to walk your hands up towards your sacrum and rise up. Bring your hands back down to the mat, back to tabletop. Pause here. And then cross your shins, come in to a seated position. Root down through your sits bones, sit up nice and tall. Take a moment to find your breath. And then extend your legs out long in front of you, come into staff pose. Pause here. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Place your hands on your feet, your shins, or the mat. And bow forward. Keep your chin away from your chest. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Tuning in to your breath. Slowly walk your hands up towards your hips. Sit up nice and tall. Bring your feet out wide. Externally rotate your thighs out towards the back of the mat. Make sure your sits bones are grounded down. Sit up nice and tall. Extend your arms overhead. Slowly twist your belly button and your shoulders over towards your right foot. Take a big inhale, grow tall through your spine and your crown. And on your exhale, fold over your right leg. Place your hands on the sole of your foot, the mat, or your shin. Take a few slow, deep breaths here, feeling a stretch in your right hamstring. Your left hip should be rooted down on the mat. If it's not, you can just slowly back off the stretch by bringing your arms closer to your body. Take a few slow, deep inhales and exhales here. And come back to center. Extend your arms overhead. Shoulders melt away from the ears. Tilt your belly button and your shoulders over towards your left toes. Take an inhale and grow tall through your crown. And on your exhale, fold forward. Reach your hands for the sole of your foot, your shin, or the mat. Feeling the stretch in your right side body and your left hamstring. Soften in. And slowly rise back up. Bring the soles of your feet together, knees out wide. Clasp your hands on your ankles or your feet. Take an inhale, grow tall through the crown. And on your exhale, fold forward. Maybe your elbows come out wide. Bringing your head closer to your feet. Come in to butterfly pose. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. breaths. And rise back up. Close your knees together. Bring the soles of your feet together on the mat. Your hands can be placed down by your hips. Slowly lower all the way down. Come into a supine position. Ankles are in line with your knees. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Take a moment to settle in here. Rooting down through the soles of your feet. Slowly start to lift your hips up. Squeeze your glutes together. Come into bridge pose. You have the option to stay here, or you can interlace your fingers behind you. Walk your shoulder blades together and open through your heart. Keep lifting your hips up towards the sky. We're here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. And walk your shoulders out. Bring your arms out to the side and slowly lower your hips back down to the mat. Maybe windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to the center. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Place your hands by your hips. Slowly lift your hips up towards the sky. Squeeze your glutes together. Come into your second bridge. Maybe interlace your fingers and walk your shoulder blades together, opening through your heart. Stay here for 3 more slow, deep breaths. Release your hands, walk your shoulders out, and slowly lower your hips back down to the mat. Maybe windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to center. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. Extend your arms out to a T. Bring your knees up, shins parallel to the mat, and slowly sink your knees over towards the left side of your mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Come into supine twist. Pause here. For 2 more slow, deep breaths. And with control, slowly lift your knees back up to center, pausing in the middle, and then lower your knees over towards the right side of your mat, gazing over your left shoulder. Come into supine twist on the second side. Stay here for 1 more deep breath. And Lift your knees back to center. Hug your knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side. Maybe reach around and grab for the outside edges of your feet or your hamstrings and come into happy baby. At this time, I invite you to do anything you would like to do to complete your practice today. And when you're ready, make your way into Shavasana. Maybe bring your feet to the outside edges of your mat, letting your toes flop open to the sides, flipping your palms up towards the sky, releasing any areas of tension. Close your eyes. Tune into your breath, feeling the weight of your body against the mat. Relaxing in, softening through your eyes, softening between your eyes, softening your mouth, softening your jaw and your tongue, softening your throat, relaxing your shoulders and your forearms, relaxing in through your wrists, softening your fingers, softening through your hips, your thighs, relaxing your knees and your calves, softening your ankles and your feet, relaxing your toes, melting in, releasing any tension. Slowly start to deepen your breath. Maybe bring your awareness to your fingers and your toes. and invite some movement into your body. You can stretch your arms overhead, come into a morning stretch, or you can hug your knees into your chest. And make your way over to your right side. Pause here. And make your way up to a seated position. Close your eyes and bring your hands to heart center. I want to take a moment to pause and honor each one of you for showing up, getting on your mat, practicing, tuning in with your breath, your mind, your body. The light in me sees and honors the light in each one of you. Namaste.